In the dead of night, the skies over Venezuela shattered. Explosions tore through Caracas. Power vanished. And a single claim sent shockwaves around the world. Nicolás Maduro, the nation's elusive president, had been captured by U.S. forces. No photos. No proof. Just silence. Tonight, we unravel the secret behind the most explosive political mystery of our time, a story of power, deception, and a capture that may never have happened. Caracas had learned how to live with tension. For years, it lingered in the background like static, sanctions, shortages, whispers of coups and foreign intervention. People adjusted. They slept lighter. They listened harder. But nothing prepared the city for the sound that arrived just after 2 in the morning on January 3, 2026. It wasn't loud at first. It was deep. A low, rolling vibration that crept through concrete walls and metal frames, subtle enough to be mistaken for distant thunder. A few dogs barked. Somewhere, a baby cried. Then came the second sound, sharper, closer, followed by a flash that turned the night sky a blinding white. Windows rattled violently. Car alarms erupted across entire neighborhoods. And in that instant, Caracas knew this was no storm. Explosions tore through the darkness near military installations and strategic sites around the capital. In coastal areas, residents reported aircraft moving unnaturally low, their silhouettes briefly visible against burning clouds. Cell phone networks flickered. Internet connections dropped. In some districts, the power went out entirely, plunging apartment blocks into sudden silence broken only by distant sirens and the echo of blasts still rolling across the city. The sky had broken. And no one knew who had done it, or why. People poured onto balconies and rooftops, some filming, others frozen in disbelief. In neighborhoods near military zones, fear spread fast. Parents dragged children away from windows. Doors were locked. Prayers were whispered. Within minutes, videos flooded social media, shaky clips of smoke columns rising beyond city lights, muffled explosions captured through trembling hands. No official statements followed. No emergency broadcast. Just chaos and speculation. Then, slowly, fragments of information began to surface. U.S. forces. Airstrikes. Targets hit across Caracas and along the northern coast. The words spread faster than facts. For years, Venezuela had been a geopolitical pressure point, a nation locked in a prolonged standoff with the United States and its allies. Sanctions had tightened like a noose. Oil exports had been choked. Naval operations had intercepted tankers accused of sanctions evasion. The rhetoric had grown sharper, more personal, more dangerous. But rhetoric was one thing. This was something else. This was force. As dawn approached, the scale of the strikes became clearer. Military air bases, communications infrastructure, and strategic facilities had been hit. Reports pointed to explosions near the Generalissimo Francisco de Miranda Air Base, Fort Tayuna, one of the most heavily guarded military complexes in the country, and coastal airfields believed to support military logistics. Smoke hung over the city as the sun rose, revealing damage that no denial could erase. The strikes were real. What they meant was not. At exactly the moment when fear and confusion peaked, a message appeared, not from Caracas, but from Washington. A claim issued by the President of the United States. Nicolás Maduro, President of Venezuela, and his wife, Cilia Flores, had been captured by U.S. forces and flown out of the country. Captured. The word hit like a second explosion. Not killed. Not deposed. Not overthrown by rebels. Captured, as though a sitting head of state were a fugitive suspect, extracted under cover of darkness. If true, it would be unprecedented in modern international history. Within minutes, the world reacted. Newsrooms scrambled. Analysts froze mid-sentence. Governments hesitated, unsure whether to respond or wait. Social media exploded with disbelief, celebration, outrage, and fear, often all at once. But in Venezuela, the response was very different. State television cut into regular programming. Officials appeared visibly tense, denouncing the strikes as an act of imperial aggression. Emergency measures were announced. Calls went out for calm and for proof. Proof of life. Proof of location. Proof that the president had not been taken. Because despite the claim shaking the globe, something vital was missing. There was no video. No photograph. No neutral confirmation. No international body verifying the capture. Only words. And words, in modern warfare, can be more dangerous than weapons. Inside Caracas, soldiers deployed to key locations. Roadblocks appeared. Government buildings were locked down. But there was no mass uprising. No celebrations. No clear signs of regime collapse. Instead, there was uncertainty. A nation held in suspension, waiting to find out whether its leader was still within its borders, or already gone. The absence became the story. In crime investigations, absence is rarely accidental. A missing suspect raises alarms. A silent witness invites suspicion. And here, the silence surrounded a man whose face had dominated Venezuelan politics for over a decade. Where was Nicolás Maduro? If he had been captured, where was the evidence? If he had not, why had the claim been made so boldly, so publicly? As the hours passed, international reactions began to form. Some governments called for emergency meetings at the United Nations. Others condemned the strikes outright, warning that forced regime change would destabilize the region. A few remained conspicuously quiet, waiting, watching, calculating. Analysts pored over satellite imagery and air traffic data, searching for clues hidden in flight paths and radar gaps. Was there evidence of an extraction flight? Had airspace restrictions been imposed? Had something moved through the sky that night besides missiles? The answers were frustratingly incomplete. By evening, the story had split into competing realities. In one version, the United States had executed a daring, high-risk operation, striking key targets and extracting a leader accused of criminal activity, delivering a decisive blow after years of pressure. In the other, the strikes were real, but the capture was not, a psychological operation designed to sow confusion, weaken loyalty, and fracture the perception of control. Both scenarios were dangerous. And both required one thing to succeed: belief. Inside Venezuela, rumors multiplied. Some claimed Maduro had gone into hiding before the strikes. Others whispered that he had been smuggled out through allied channels. A few insisted the U.S. version was true, that the president was already gone, and the government was stalling. None of it could be confirmed. And in that vacuum, fear took root. Night fell again over Caracas. The city was quieter than usual, as though holding its breath. Soldiers remained on alert. Power outages lingered. Families gathered indoors, glued to screens that offered more speculation than clarity. Across the world, the question echoed through newsrooms, intelligence agencies, and living rooms alike. Had the unthinkable just happened? Or was the world witnessing the most audacious information war in modern history? Because if a claim this extraordinary could be made without immediate proof, if the fate of a nation's leader could exist in a state of debate rather than fact, then something fundamental had changed. The rules were no longer clear. and the truth had become the most contested territory of all. And somewhere between the smoke over Caracas and the silence of missing confirmation, a line was crossed, though no one could yet agree on where it lay. To understand why the world reacted the way it did, you have to understand the man whose name sat at the center of the chaos. Nicolás Maduro Moros was never meant to be inevitable. He did not rise through heroic revolution or military conquest. He was not born into power, nor did he seize it with a single dramatic act. His ascent was quieter, steadier, the kind that happens when history leaves a door ajar and the right person happens to be standing nearby. Before the speeches, before the accusations, before the sanctions and the indictments, Maduro was a bus driver, a union organizer, a political loyalist, a survivor in the long shadow of Hugo Chavez. And when Chavez died in 2013, that shadow became a vacuum. Maduro stepped into it. From the beginning, his presidency was contested, legally, politically, morally. Narrow election victories were challenged. Protests erupted. Inflation spiraled. Food and medicine became scarce. Millions fled the country, carrying their lives across borders in backpacks and plastic bags. To his supporters, Maduro was a symbol of resistance against foreign domination. To his critics, he was the embodiment of collapse, a man clinging to power while a nation crumbled around him. But outside Venezuela, another image began to take shape. A criminal one. Long before the sky broke over Caracas, U.S. prosecutors had been building a case, at least on paper. They accused Maduro and senior members of his government of transforming Venezuela into a corridor for narcotics trafficking, of collaborating with armed groups, of using state power to shield criminal operations. Rewards were announced for information leading to arrests. Indictments were unsealed. The language was severe. Narcoterrorism, conspiracy, money laundering. Yet for all the words, there was a glaring absence, a courtroom. Maduro was never tried, never extradited, never arrested, because he was a sitting president. And in the world of international law, that status still matters, even when accusations are loud and relentless. This was the tension that had simmered for years. A man accused, but unreachable. A government sanctioned, but intact. A conflict frozen between legality and power. Until the night of January 3, 2026. When the claim of Maduro's capture surfaced, it didn't land on neutral ground. It landed on years of built-up narrative, a story many were already primed to believe. For some, it felt like inevitability finally catching up. For others, it felt impossible. Because capturing a president is not like capturing a criminal. It is not a police operation. It is not a raid on a hideout. It is an act that detonates legal, diplomatic, and military consequences all at once. If Maduro had truly been taken, it would mean the collapse of norms that had survived even the Cold War. And yet, the idea would not die. Inside Venezuela, the man himself remained unseen. No televised address. No public appearance. No recorded message. Only officials speaking on his behalf, insisting he was free, while simultaneously refusing to show him. That silence fueled suspicion. In authoritarian systems, leaders appear quickly after crises to project control. Their presence is reassurance. Their absence is dangerous. And Maduro's absence was becoming impossible to ignore. As analysts dissected the situation, a darker possibility emerged. What if the capture claim was not meant to be believed immediately? What if it was meant to destabilize? In warfare, perception can be more powerful than confirmation. A leader believed to be gone loses authority even if he still breathes. Loyalty erodes. Command chains fracture. Doubt spreads. If this was psychological warfare, Maduro himself was not the only target. The Venezuelan military was. The population was. The international community was. But there was another angle, one less discussed, but far more unsettling. What if the claim was true, but incomplete? What if something had gone wrong? Operations of this scale are never clean. Extraction missions fail. Targets escape. Plans fracture in the fog of execution. If an attempt had been made, and partially succeeded, silence might not be a tactic. It might be damage control. As night turned into day again, new questions surfaced. Had Maduro been present at any of the targeted locations? Had intelligence placed him somewhere specific, and had that intelligence been wrong? Had the strikes been meant as pressure rather than capture, with the announcement serving another purpose entirely? The answers remained locked behind classified briefings and sealed doors. But one thing was clear. This was no longer about whether Maduro was guilty or innocent. It was about whether truth itself still mattered. In the streets of Caracas, ordinary people felt the weight of that uncertainty. Shop owners hesitated to open. Parents debated whether to send children to school. Soldiers stood guard with expressions that revealed nothing or everything. A nation existed in limbo. Because when leadership becomes ambiguous, fear fills the gap. And somewhere, whether in hiding, under protection, or beyond borders entirely, the man at the center of the storm remained silent. A silence that spoke louder than any denial. The world had been told he was captured. His government said he was not. And until proof emerged, both realities coexisted, competing, clashing, corroding trust with every passing hour. In true crime, there is a moment investigators call the fracture point, the instant where a case splits into multiple possible truths, each demanding a different conclusion. January 3, 2026 was that moment. Because from here on, every interpretation depended not on evidence, but on belief. And belief, once weaponized, is nearly impossible to disarm. In the hours and days following the explosions over Caracas, the world was flooded with messages. Some shouted certainty. Others whispered doubt. And somewhere in between, truth disappeared. President Trump's claim of Nicolás Maduro's capture sparked a frenzy, a shockwave of hope, outrage, skepticism, and confusion. But as the dust settled, one fact stood glaringly clear: no conclusive evidence surfaced to confirm or deny the claim. No photographs. No videos. No verifiable intelligence leaks. Just statements. In a world where every major event is captured instantly on phones, where satellites orbit the planet relentlessly, and where social media is the first draft of history, this silence was deafening. Journalists scrambled for sources. Government officials circled their statements carefully. Intelligence experts analyzed radar data and flight paths. Yet, the key question remained: where was Nicolás Maduro? Without proof, the capture claim became a ghost story, haunting headlines but escaping verification. Meanwhile, Venezuela's government rejected the claim outright, denouncing it as a fabrication, a psychological operation designed to sow discord and weaken resolve. State media showed footage of Maduro's inner circle at work, but notably absent was Maduro himself. Instead, officials appeared on camera, pledging resistance and calling for unity, insisting the president remained in command. But the absence of Maduro was telling. This dynamic revealed a modern paradox. In the age of transparency, absence speaks volumes. For governments under siege, control of the narrative is as vital as control of territory. To admit a leader is missing, or worse, captured is to invite chaos. To deny it without evidence is to strain credibility. Social media became a battlefield. Bots and trolls flooded timelines, amplifying conflicting stories. Hashtags surged and vanished. Some accounts pushed the capture narrative with fervor. Others labeled it fake news. Disinformation campaigns unfolded, orchestrated by unknown actors, weaponizing uncertainty itself. For the everyday viewer scrolling through feeds, the lines between fact, rumor, and fabrication blurred. The United States government remained unusually tight-lipped beyond the initial claim. There was no official confirmation, no proof offered to the public or international bodies. The silence raised eyebrows and fueled speculation. In diplomatic channels, voices called for calm, urging restraint while seeking clarity. Information warfare, once a fringe concept, had become central. More dangerous than missiles or tanks, it could fracture alliances, incite unrest, and erode trust faster than any physical strike. And Venezuela had become its latest epicenter. Meanwhile, international organizations sought to intervene. The United Nations called emergency sessions. The International Committee of the Red Cross requested access to confirm the status of detainees. But access was denied or delayed. The world watched, waiting for facts, but facts were elusive. This was no ordinary crisis. It was a carefully constructed theater where reality was contested at every turn. The crime scene was not a broken building or a captured person but a narrative fractured into competing truths. And in this gray zone, viewers became jurors, forced to decide what to believe without evidence. But why? Why make such a bold claim without proof? Why deny presence when leadership must be visible? The answer may lie in the art of modern warfare. Psychological operations, or PSYOPs, have evolved. Beyond sabotage and espionage, the battlefield has expanded to the mind. A single claim, true or false, can destabilize governments, erode public confidence, and shift power balances. For opponents, planting doubt can be as effective as planting explosives. In Venezuela's case, declaring Maduro captured, whether fact or fiction, was a strategic strike aimed at destabilization. It forced factions within the country to question loyalty. It pressured military leaders to choose sides. It shook the confidence of allies abroad. Yet, the longer the truth remained hidden, the more dangerous the vacuum became. Uncertainty breeds fear. Fear breeds chaos. And chaos is a tool for those seeking control. But amidst the fog of misinformation, a few truths persisted. The strikes on military installations were real. Infrastructure was damaged. Communications disrupted. The government was rattled. And Maduro, wherever he was no longer the unassailable figure he had been. This blurred reality was perhaps the greatest victory of all. Because in a world where stories shape history, controlling the narrative can be the deadliest weapon. As news of the strikes and the bold claim of Nicolás Maduro's capture rippled out from Caracas and Washington, the world's reaction was swift, fractured, and fraught with tension. International diplomacy, always delicate, suddenly felt like a powder keg teetering on the edge. In New York, the United Nations convened an emergency session. Delegates spoke in urgent tones, their voices echoing the deep divisions on the global stage. Some condemned the U.S. action as a blatant violation of sovereignty, an act of aggression that risked destabilizing an already fragile region. Others urged caution, citing Maduro's government as a criminal regime that had long ignored international law and human rights. No consensus emerged. The Security Council, paralyzed by competing interests, issued a call for dialogue but stopped short of taking concrete measures. Across Latin America, reactions varied. Colombia, sharing a long and tense border with Venezuela, called for calm and a united front against further violence. Brazil echoed concerns over regional stability, warning that an escalation could spark refugee crises and cross-border conflict. Cuba, a longtime ally of Venezuela, denounced the strikes as imperialist aggression, pledging full support to Maduro's government and condemning what it called blatant U.S. interference. Meanwhile, in Washington, the administration struck a careful tone. Officials reaffirmed their commitment to combating drug trafficking and restoring democracy in Venezuela but avoided direct confirmation of the capture claim. Behind closed doors, diplomats worked overtime to manage fallout, balancing pressure from hardliners demanding further action against voices warning of the dangers of overreach. Legal experts weighed in, dissecting the implications. The capture of a sitting head of state by foreign forces raised profound questions under international law. Was this an act of war? A violation of sovereignty? An extraordinary measure justified by the alleged crimes of the Venezuelan government? Opinions varied widely. Some argued that Maduro's indictment and the documented evidence of illicit activities provided legal grounds for extraordinary actions. Others warned that bypassing diplomatic channels risked setting dangerous precedents, undermining the fragile framework that governs international relations. On the ground in Venezuela, the strikes had shaken the military and political apparatus. Although the government insisted it remained firmly in control, cracks were visible. Military leaders faced immense pressure, balancing loyalty to Maduro against growing doubts fueled by uncertainty and external pressure. Opposition groups, while divided and cautious, saw an opportunity. Some called for negotiations, others prepared for potential power vacuums. The United States also intensified economic sanctions, expanding naval blockades and intercepting shipments suspected of violating embargoes. The strategy was clear: isolate the Venezuelan regime, cut off its resources, and amplify pressure from within. Yet, despite all this activity, the central mystery endured. Where was Nicolás Maduro? Without confirmation, his fate remained the most contentious question. In geopolitical chess, missing kings changed the game entirely. The world had witnessed an unprecedented convergence of military action, political theater, and legal ambiguity. What began as targeted strikes had transformed into a global crisis, a high-stakes drama with no clear ending. For Crimson Crime Cases viewers, this moment was more than headlines and breaking news. It was a lesson in the complex interplay between crime, power, and the fragile threads holding nations together. The smoke had cleared, but the questions remained, heavy and unresolved. In the aftermath of the strikes, the capture claim, and the fractured narratives, the world faced a new kind of crime, the crime of certainty without evidence. What do you do when the truth is hidden behind layers of silence, denial, and misinformation? When every side has a story, but none can fully prove it. In Venezuela, life continued in tense uncertainty. Markets reopened, schools cautiously resumed, but a shadow hung over every decision. Soldiers patrolled with more suspicion than before. Families whispered about disappearances. The streets carried an unease deeper than any power outage. Internationally, the impact was profound. The fragile balance in Latin America was shattered. Alliances shifted in shadows. Regional powers recalculated their positions. The United States tightened its grip, both militarily and economically, asserting influence but risking deeper entanglement. And at the center, or perhaps the edges, of it all, Nicolás Maduro remained a phantom. No official proof of capture ever surfaced. No public appearances. No verifiable communications. A man presumed captured, yet still unaccounted for. This ambiguity was more than political theater. It was a weapon. In the war for control over perception, uncertainty fractured alliances, sowed distrust, and left the world grasping for clarity. As Crimson Crime Cases viewers know, crime thrives in the shadows. And here, in the shadows of power and truth, the greatest crime may be the manipulation of belief itself. But here is the final, chilling question. If the fate of a nation's leader can be disputed so publicly, if the difference between capture and freedom can hinge on silence, what happens to the very idea of justice? Of accountability? Of truth? Because when certainty dies, chaos takes its place. The cliffhanger. In the weeks following the strikes, a leaked, encrypted message surfaced on dark web channels, allegedly from inside Venezuela's security apparatus. It hinted at a secret location, a covert transfer, and a shadowy deal that could change everything. But no one has confirmed its authenticity. And the world waits. For proof. For answers. For the next move in a game with stakes higher than any of us can imagine. What really happened to Nicolás Maduro? The question remains. And until it is answered, the night the sky broke over Caracas will remain one of the greatest mysteries of our time.